This interview is brought to you by Burn It Up Coaching and Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self and the 21-Day Challenge. And if you're an entrepreneur or high achiever and you're committed to breaking through your BS, reaching your next level, getting clear on your dream, breaking it down into bite-sized steps, getting your statement of purpose, your vision, your mission, your strategy, your objectives, being able to break that down into 12 months, 3 months, 1 month, 1 week goals, so it's not so overwhelming and exhausting and full of anxiety and fear and overwhelm. Or if you know that stuff, but you just aren't doing it and you just need a kick in the ass, then I am here to serve you. And I'm proud to do it. And I love to do it. And it's so much fun to get you into gear so that you can become your greatest possible self. So you'll have a crystal clear 21-day goal. You'll break it down into bite-sized steps every single day. You'll have progress reports so that you can check in whether you're doing it or not. Weekly deep dive calls to make sure that you are empowered in your creation and unlimiting those beliefs, getting rid of the self-sabotage and stuff that's keeping you stuck so that you can be your greatest possible self. And that is a 21-day challenge. If you're interested and committed to being your greatest possible self, breaking through and achieving your 21-day goal, send me a message. We'll see if it's a great fit for you. Chris@beyourgps.com, or you can send me a message on Facebook, facebook.com/th3burns. And if it's not a fit for you, we'll definitely find someone or something that can help you and get you to where you want to go, okay? Super, super grateful to do that. And the awesome, spectacular iTunes review of the week is shared by the one and only Yvonne Larson, the Vitality Vixen, and she wrote, "Passion, focus, inspiring. I've met tons of people who say they are committed to transforming the world. This guy, what? Seriously, he is no joke. His weekly 12-hour marathons are packed with valuable, reliable, and practical tools and resources. He is meticulous about curating the best guests. He is like the Energizer Bunny. He keeps going and 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 going." He goes the distance. I'm proud and honored to know such an amazing man. So Yvonne, thank you so much for sharing that. It's also Yvonne's birthday. So before we dive into her intro, before you even listen to this podcast, go listen to her podcast. Support her. playtowinpodcast.com. Do that. She's going to be awesome on this show, and I'm sure her show has some amazing stuff on it. Go support her. She's launching it today, September 26th. So go support her and make sure that you check that out and give her some downloads, give her some love, let her know you came from Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self, because she's awesome, and her mentality, her wisdom, her style in life, her funny humor, and just like self-expression is so contagious, and I highly recommend you connect even more deeply with this woman. She's amazing. So before I read her intro, I'm gonna let you know that she's gonna share some gold throughout this show. I know it. I know who she is. I know how she shows up. She's a powerhouse, and you're gonna hear gold shared throughout the whole thing. Wisdom, exercises, actions, different things like that. So make sure you stick around all the way till the end so that you can get access to all that gold and know how you can stay connected with Yvonne and really tap into that greatness that she's providing for you. So without further delay, applying her 30,000 hours of one-on-one research with entrepreneurs, Yvonne Larson has become an expert in clearing entrepreneurs from debilitating dysfunctions such as exhaustion, overwhelm, and isolation so they live their optimal life. Referred to as a healer by her clients, Yvonne is renowned worldwide for her unique blend of performance-based bodywork with intuitive coaching that eliminates emotional restrictions for her clients. As the host of the Play to Win podcast, she brings these 20-plus years of insights, wisdom, and research gained as a healer to her listeners so they can master the art of fulfillment. And Yvonne is here today to rock it with us. Yvonne, are you ready to rock this?
I'm ready to rock.
You are now rocking it live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and experience with us. We appreciate you.
Awesome. I appreciate you. This is exciting to be on here. I had such a blast on your show last week. Came in the last hour and didn't realize that the last hour was the power hour. So I was like, why is it quiet? So confused.
Where do I look? Where's the camera? Where's the camera? I love it.
oh my God, today has been so amazing.
I love it.
So you know Michael Neely. You actually
Yep.
did you see Michael Neely at Next Big Step this weekend?
So he wasn't there. He was at the January event, but I did
Yes.
interview him on my show, and I did speak at Your Authority Blueprint Live. Yeah.
So he's been a huge help with this whole
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
as has Doug and Strickland and
Yep.
JJ and.
Yep.
But today I told Michael Neely, he congratulated me, and I said, "This is like that moment in Disney where Pinocchio says, 'I'm a real boy.'"
Yes.
I was like, "I'm a real podcaster."
It's official. I love it. I love it.
Yes, it's
So
exciting.
awesome. Well, thank you for taking time out of your lunch day and
Thank
your
you.
birthday to come celebrate
Yes.
with us and share the news
Yes.
with us. We appreciate
Absolutely.
you and all the wisdom that you're creating over there. And I'm excited because I love, one, playing the game of life, and two,
Yeah.
I love winning.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
go.
Yes, let's do it.
So we want to find out how to be fulfilled, the art of fulfillment, all that good stuff. And before we go there, we're going to dive into the theme of the day, which is our all-connected universe. So Yvonne, how does this concept of an all-connected universe, how has it played a role in your life? How has it impacted you?
Oh my gosh. Well, that is like so funny. I knew that, but I forgot that was the thing for the today. So my superpower is actually connection.
Ooh.
That's actually my superpower.
Ooh.
So like, I want to answer your question, but I got distracted by my excitement.
All-connected universe, how has it impacted you?
So I feel like because of the background that I've done,
Mhm.
all these 20 years of working with my clients,
Mhm.
that I've been like hyper trained to actually tap into that.
Mhm.
And because I am constantly for your listeners, as a
Mhm.
massage therapist for 20 years, the thing that I really focus on is not just bringing my attention and intention, but also
Mm.
my intuition to
Yeah.
every single session. And a lot of times when you go and get work done from someone, like they can't even pay attention.
Right.
So, so I feel like because that's like the way that I've always come at working with my clients, that I have been able to tap into receiving messages and supporting people in a way that wouldn't normally be available,
Mm.
but actually is available to every single person. But we just don't take the time to be still and allow
Mm.
ourselves to be connected to it and actually receive all of that information.
Mm.
And it's stunning, because when I'm having these amazing these healing sessions with my clients, like I'll get something, and then I'll, like, if I don't speak what comes in, as soon as that comes to me, then I start to doubt, oh, that's stupid, and like my ego comes in and wants to
Mhm.
shut it off like
Yeah.
really fast. But as long as I just say it, and I might even preface it like, this might not make any sense to you, and then I'll say it. It just, that's like the little precursor to allow me to say it.
Right.
And then they're like, oh my gosh. And then it's always confirmed. It
Wow.
always gets confirmed that that was
Mm.
the exact message that they needed to get. And us all being connected allows, when I don't know, there's like a verse in the Bible about where two or more are gathered together.
Mhm.
And we're always all gathered together, but we're
Mhm.
just like not tuned in, like we haven't tuned
Mm.
into the right channel, right?
Wow.
So when I'm there in a session and I tune into what that person intends to get from the session,
Mhm.
I just receive messages left and right, and
Mm.
it just gets it's fun. It's so much fun.
I
So
love it. I love it. So the connection, the all connected universe allows you to really serve people at such a
mhm.
higher level because you're connected to what they need to hear, what they want to hear, what has been a block or a restriction or a resistance or something that's been nagging at them, or
Mhm.
something that's not complete, and you get to deliver that message, that communication that like resolves something or confirms something or gives them what they've been looking for.
And it's so funny because they're like, oh my gosh, how come nobody else ever does this? I've gone here, there, and everywhere, and I've never received this kind of like healing session.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, they're not committed to the same thing, I
Mm.
guess. But it's possible for all of us. It's
Right.
absolutely possible for all of us. And I also do my best. It's also like, teach someone to fish, don't give them the fish.
Right.
That like when they come to me, it's like, just because you came here and you were able to get this kind of information in this session doesn't mean that you can only get it here. Like you can absolutely, train your brain to do the exact same thing. But what's really imperative is that we get past all of the commotion in our mind. If you like think of the ocean, like the top is like, so much going on, but the deeper and deeper and deeper down that you go in the ocean, it's still fluid, but it's still. And that is where like you really get to luxuriate in consciousness. Sounds really weird.
I love it. I've never even thought about that though. Like the top is like very rough, but as you go down to the deeper places, it's more still. What do you think?
Still fluid.
But still fluid. Right. So how does that, I love it. And I just want to grasp the concept and make sure we're grasping it. Is that like, how does that relate to our consciousness or our awareness or our intuition or our soul? How does that metaphor relate to us as human beings?
So I'm gonna make the distinction between consciousness and thoughts.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So if you see like a glass of champagne, there's like I've heard like 1 million bubbles in a single glass of champagne.
Wow.
And we can equate the thoughts that are passing through our mind in any given moment to the 1 million bubbles that are going through this glass of champagne. First of all, we can't concentrate on 1 million things at once. That's like, that doesn't even make sense, right? But it's amazing how like people, so I've been called a master manifester.
Yes.
And we cannot manifest or draw to ourselves the things that we want in our life if we attempt to focus on multiple thoughts. And what's unfortunate is that we don't take the time to slow down and focus on one thought. And so the distinction between thoughts and consciousness is like allowing yourself to like hone in on one thought. And like when I said luxuriate in it, it's like so inspiration is to breathe life into. So allow yourself to breathe life into that particular thought. And then once again, allow what's available to you, God, the universe, however one relates to what I'm talking about, allow that the voice and the message to come to you. But you can't do that if you're like, letting all these things distract you.
So what I love it. I think there's so many cool things that we can pull from this and like, make connections and metaphors. Like I love the glass because there's all these thoughts that are going on and we can choose to focus on the thoughts and the randomness, or we can choose to focus on, the liquid and what that substance is and what's in there and what it's made of and that essence. And at the bottom of the ocean, there's still fluidity, right? There's still that water there, and it's still. And so for human beings, I think like what is the value in stillness? The value is being able to choose, being able to see, being able to receive, being able to create effectively from this place of centeredness. And I think that's important. And I'm still
there's a saying, be still and know.
Right.
Be still. You have to be still first. I think it's really funny. I just realized that everything that I am, every analogy is around like water.
Ooh.
And water equates to
and
emotion.
you got so much blue. You got water in your background. Come on. Yes.
But water relates to emotion, and emotional bodywork is the thing that I've been doing for the last 20 years. So I just thought it was really, I just clicked that's what I was doing.
That's awesome.
About the consciousness.
Tuned in, tapped in, turned on. Let's go. Love it. So Yvonne, thanks for sharing about your perspective on we are all connected and a connected universe. I love it. And thanks for sharing about your gifts and what you're up to. Share a little bit more about the Play to Win podcast since we're here. Let's dive into that and why you started it and what's going on with it.
Well, so I can go so many different places with this right now. So coming down to the name of what
Mhm.
this is, like, so there's a mission behind what it is that I'm doing,
Mhm.
but then there's like the purpose of it as well. So when I came up with the name Play to Win, it speaks to two different things.
Mhm.
Most people hear play to win and they're like, play full out so
Yeah.
that you go achieve and conquer and grind and crush and kill it and hustle and all of these things, right? But when you think about the number of people who we idolize,
Mhm.
and I'm going to throw out some names. It'll cause a lot of people to like go different places. But Robin Williams, Kate Spade, Anthony
Yeah.
Bourdain, like they got to the top of their
Mhm.
fields. They got all of the accolades, all of the awards, all of the goodies, the physical goodies that life has to offer. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
But if it is at the what is that word, expense,
Expense.
if it is at the expense of your joy and your fulfillment, then what is it worth? Even
Mm.
Elon Musk right now just saw an article in Entrepreneur magazine that he's like working 120 hours a week, and he's been doing that for years. He doesn't see his family, he doesn't see his kids, he doesn't get enough sleep, he barely made it to his just for a few minutes to his brother's wedding.
Wow.
He's like making really poor decisions and how he's putting himself out there. And
Mm.
it's because his cognitive function is like declining.
Yeah.
It's like, for what?
Yeah.
For what? Right? So when I'm creating Play to Win, it's really it's a movement
Yeah.
to have people shift their focus from the winning portion, achievement and success, to play, fulfillment
Mm.
and joy.
Mm.
So I define play is like, it's not like goofing off, like that can be part of it, but play is this state of childlike curiosity, exploration, discovery, like the absence of judgment. Like you
Mhm.
try things and you fail, and it doesn't, there's nothing, there's no make wrong that you failed. You
Mm.
just like, oops, that didn't work. Now what? It's like
Mhm.
kind of like having an inventor's mind,
Mhm.
right? Edison, like just continuously being on that growth edge. And when we're in that place, like there's so much newness and excitement and positive expectancy and anticipation about life. And it's like, what's next? Like, what
Yeah.
kid doesn't like jump out of
Mm.
bed on Christmas morning, like,
Oh man.
at
Oh
like
man.
before the crack of dawn, right?
Yep.
Like, what if as adults we stopped telling ourselves that we have to grow up and that play is something that only kids are supposed to do? And we bring that distinction of play to our every single day life, so that every single moment of every single day we are on fire.
Yes.
That's what the Play to
Yes.
Win podcast is about. And the mission behind it all is actually to just annihilate the conversation of suicide.
Mm.
And like the personal side of that is that I, for one, have lost 5 friends to suicide that I know of. I suspect that I have lost more, but it didn't it didn't look like suicide, but they
Mm.
weren't happy with their life. So it's like I am not schooled in like suicide prevention and all of that kind of thing. I do have someone on my team
Mhm.
for the podcast that is,
Nice.
and it's not the focus, like it's not the primary focus of the podcast,
Mm.
but it is like that's what we're going for. It's like, let us shine the light on all of the different things
Mm.
that are debilitating for business owners and entrepreneurs, that cause us to get into this negative state of mind
Mhm.
that spirals down into depression and unworkability, and eventually becomes fatal.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful, and
Thank you.
I love that you're making the play aspect not so much about like it's not so much about the winning as in crushing and doing whatever it takes, competing. It's not about like I win, you lose, but it's rather play, release and unleash that childlike wonder and innocence and curiosity and discovery and adventure, right? Like
And you get
all
to
those
enjoy
things.
the journey.
Right, right.
Enjoy the journey. It's not about where you're trying to get. Like everybody talks
Mm,
about, it's all about the journey, but
right.
no one acts like it.
Lives it. How do you live?
Yeah,
How do you live
exactly.
That it's about the journey rather than the end destination.
Yeah. So the interviews like that, I am not saying that I have the answers. I created the podcast so that I can pick the
Find out.
brains of
Yeah.
amazing people.
Yeah.
And it's like whatever you focus on expands, right?
Yep.
So I'm focusing on mastering the art of fulfillment because that's what I want.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. So this is epic. And before we go any further, we want to dive back into the journey and talk about what challenges, what obstacles did you have to overcome to get to where we are today. So Yvonne, tell us where it all began. The Yvonne that is before us, that is creating before us, that is the creator of her reality, that is launching podcasts, that is doing massages, that is, speaking and helping your clients like break through those energy barriers and blocks. Like, where did that all begin for you?
Oh my gosh. Where did it all begin?
I came out the womb.
Oh my Lord. I want you to narrow that down a lot for me. So a lot. Because, so I'll start here. So I just got back from San Diego I have like so many mentors. I so believe in mentorship.
Yes.
And I also believe in pay the price that you need to get what you need. Even if like if this particular mentor has this incredible program, you're like, I already know that, and that, but you know that this one thing is what they have that is going to make all the difference in the world. Invest.
Yep.
I have invested the most right here over and over and over again. But so that being said, 100%. I just got back from San Diego and, we were talking about like everybody's always talking when you're like, this is for speaker training. So when you're going to be a speaker, you tell a lot of stories because it's not about information, it's about transformation. And when people relate to your story, then they get to see themselves in what it is that you're sharing, and transformation occurs for them. And it bypasses like their critical mind, and they can actually like have the change that they need to have. So someone was asking, like, do I just have one standout story? Sometimes that's called like a hero's journey. And, someone said, it feels like I've had lots of hero's journeys. And that's kind of where I go when I'm asked this question of like, where did it all begin? Because I can say that there's particular moments in life that all ping pong off of each other that made me who I am and gave me the desires to do what it is that I do now.
Right.
I would say that, I'm not going to go like chronologically to the story, but I would say the first 5 years of my life were a little complicated and scary and confusing. And I had the experience, even though there were people around me that loved me and wanted to care for me, certain individuals who were taking care of me weren't taking care of me. And so I felt like I wasn't wanted, I wasn't loved, I wasn't being seen, I wasn't being heard. In fact, like I didn't even have a place. Might cry. That was like rough, in those moments. And to like not know, like those things that happen to you early on in life, you are driven by those things until you have the opportunity to see that you're being driven by them and actually choose something different. So I'm going to jump fast, really far ahead to like 1997, where I started learning from Deepak Chopra and Brian Weiss and Andrew Weil and like Candace Pert and just like all of these different people, metaphysical stuff. And I'm like, whoa, like I like my mind was like really blown. Like it just got opened. Like there weren't a whole lot of resolutions at that time. But then very shortly thereafter in 2001, and by the way, that's when I became a massage therapist. So I was just like having my mind expanded like left and right, like a whole new world, as Jasmine and Aladdin sings. But when it came to a particular education, landmark education in 2001, like that is when I really started to address some major things and letting go of things and going, whoa, like I'm doing things unconsciously that I'm not committed to doing and I'm not committed to being lived by. I want to choose something different. And then even more recently, within the last 2 years, when I got through my NLP training, the lightning speed change. Oh my gosh. Like in seconds, I have like
Yes.
eliminated so many conversations. And I just feel like my personal power is like it growing and expanding exponentially. And it's gotten to the point like I had to start this podcast because I'm so full that it's like I have overflow, and I need to be responsible in like paying it forward.
Yeah. Wow.
So I don't think I've ever shared my story quite that way.
This is fascinating. I love it. I love it. So as far as the journey from 2001 or so
Mhm,
till
mhm.
today, or some of the challenges specifically that you went through.
Oh, an 8-year relationship?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so I got into a relationship with someone that I still love,
Hmm.
absolutely love. We had, a lot of the same training, and I felt like, oh, wow, this is gonna, I've been committed to having um, a powerful synergistic relationship with, my partner. And, when I got into this relationship, what we created this foundation that um, being together, like anything and everything that got created in our world was a result of who we were being for one another.
Right.
And so, like, I was so excited because that was like the thing that we promised each other. And I showed up that way
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again. We're going to have a puppy moment.
Love it. I love it. By the way, Laura Stewart Shortridge, who we interviewed on the show before, she's a
Uh-huh.
huge fan. She says, "I love your laugh, Yvonne." So keep
Oh, thank
keep
you.
laughing, Yvonne.
Thank
I
you.
love your laugh
Thank
too.
you.
I heard
Thank
it
you.
this
Thank
week, and I'm
you.
like, oh my
Aw.
gosh, this laugh just brightens my day, and it's the best.
Mm,
It's the best.
I love being contagious
Yes.
in a good way.
Yes.
Um, so Oh gosh. So I knew that I showed up that way, but what I didn't realize is that it wasn't being reciprocated.
Mm.
And like I was putting way more into the relationship. Like I was living in a fantasy kind of denial.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I was living a very full, rich, expressed life as I was going into the relationship. And then I got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And like everything that I loved about life was like I wasn't engaged in. Like everything was like traumatic and dramatic. And I had all of these tools and resources. And yet I wasn't like that I had acquired,
Yeah.
but that for year by year got less and less connected to. Like it was
Why?
almost as
What
if I
happened?
didn't, because my focus was on someone else.
So your focus was on like tiptoeing around the relationship to like try to suit their needs?
Yes, and trying to be everything that I thought the perfect girlfriend was supposed to be.
Mm.
Like oh, your brother needs this, your other brother needs this, your mother needs this, and like okay, it's like always rising to their Italian. There's lots of drama all the time.
Oh man.
But there was just like, there was just always something to do. And it was like, it felt like every single time that I started to gain momentum towards something that was important to me, I would get sideswiped. And it wasn't until a coach that I picked up in 2013 made me fill out this ridiculously long coaching form. And inside of filling out this coaching form, one of the questions is like, what do you, after what are you going for and what do you want? What are you committed to? Then it was like, well, what stopped you? And
Mm.
I said that. I was like, oh wow, like every single time that I'm like getting somewhere, I get sideswiped. And then it was the first time, even though other people around me were like, we love you. This person's a wonderful person, but I don't think it's the right person. This is not the right relationship for you. You're a very powerful woman, a very expressed woman, a very committed and empathetic woman, and you need someone who's going to honor those things, not
Mm.
abuse and misuse those things.
No.
And so for the first time, I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be in this relationship. And it was the strangest thing because like when you can't tell people what they should do,
Mm-mm.
they need to learn what is not working for themselves.
Right. They got to
You know,
discover the choice themselves. Yeah.
exactly. And you can feel like, oh my gosh, with all of this training that I had, why couldn't I see it
Mm.
before? And it's because of the unwillingness to see
Mm.
it before. And so the moment that my purpose and my mission and my calling became more important than my ego and like being in this relationship, the moment that shifted, I was done. And it was the easiest moment of separating, because I came home, there was like some short conversation about paying bills, and I was just like, it's time. And there was a comment about me being in a mood, which was like, there was no, we didn't like fight. So like, this is probably the most strong words I ever heard in the relationship. It's like, wow, you're in a mood. And I came across the way and I said, yeah, you know what? I am in a mood. And I have been in a mood for a really long time. I have so many dreams, passions, and goals. I have this beautiful vision board. I'm like, when we came together, this is what we promised each other. And, I've helped you, I'm not going to list things. I don't want to like allude to who this person is, for it just, that's what's important to me.
Right.
But I'm like, I feel like I haven't gotten any closer to the things that I'm committed to. And, what I told him, I said, I am not a priority and a commitment of yours. You know what you're committed to by where you spend your time, your money, and your resources. And I listed off 5 things that weren't me. And I said, I need to be with someone that I'm number 1 or number 2. Like, if God comes first, then I'm number 2. Other than that, I need to come first. And so, I said, I love you and I will always love you, but I'm not the one. Now, normally when someone breaks up with you, they say you're not the one, right? But it was just like, I was clear that I'm not the one for him. And so like there wasn't, and it was just beautiful. Like, he got up, we hugged each other, there was tears, and it was over.
Yeah.
8 years in one conversation was over. And it was over in a very powerful way. It was over in a respectful way. Like, I wasn't asking him to do anything different. I wasn't making him wrong. I was just stating the facts. And it was just like talking about being in the conscious connectedness. Like, I don't even know where those things came from. Like, I was in flow and I was being supported in that conversation. Like, I look back and it's like, wow, where did that come from? It was so effortless, and we've maintained, like, we are still friends. I just got my birthday present 2 days ago from him.
I love it.
So yeah, so like it didn't destroy who we are. Like, in fact, I think we're better for each other now.
Yeah, I love it.
But
so
that's really what allowed me to be freed up to pursue what I needed to pursue.
I wanted to ask, how did that really impact your art of fulfillment mindset and mentality and wisdom?
I mean, that's just been the whole creation of this. It like finally put me on track. Like, I knew that I've been coaching since 2001. I knew that I wanted to make coaching be a priority in my business more so than it had been, but I didn't know how to, like, what kind of container to put that into. So it really helped me to, it shined the light.
Shown? Is shown a word?
I don't know. The light was on. The circumstance.
The light cometh.
The lighthouse. I don't know. It's like, it allowed me to see, like, how many negative conversations were created simply by being disconnected from my needs, wants, desires, values, mission, calling, purpose. Like the life had just been sucked out of me, and I let it. I was, stuck. My welcome episode of the podcast, I talk about the U2 song being stuck in a moment. The lyric is like, you're stuck in a moment, this time will pass, but you have to let it pass. So you can be stuck for a second, or you can be stuck for 8 years.
Right. You chose 8 years. I don't know if chose is quite the right word for it.
yeah. I was unwilling to see, what was happening.
Right.
It was very interesting. I was more committed to my ego and looking good, and really committed to a lie, like that this is not pretty. Like it looks pretty on the outside, but it's not pretty on the inside.
Mm.
And that's actually what allowed me to create this whole master the art of fulfillment is like you can't even begin to start mastering the art of fulfillment if you are more committed to the facade
Mm.
than you are your life force. Like the focus has to be on what you were put here on the planet to do. And
Mm.
I believe that every one of us has a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So how does your podcast help people find their purpose?
So because for the last 20 years, I am a business owner and entrepreneur. I say that I became an entrepreneur at age like 6 when I sold rocks to my neighbor out of their yard.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But like, so that's just I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I feel like that's just like who I am. So that's what I've attracted into my business. So I
Mm.
work with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs and professionals. And when they come in, like that superpower that I said I have of connection, they just open up and they share things that they need to share that they know aren't going to go anywhere else. And in doing so, like I've learned like all of these like debilitating symptoms and conditions that business owners and entrepreneurs go through when we aren't um, creating the boundaries that we need. We aren't articulating what we need. We aren't um, standing up for ourselves.
Mm.
All these, the things that I lived through in the 8 years, like this happens in our business. And so, how the podcast helps is that I already have identified I have a list of 15 things, but there are many more. But these are like, not the top 10, but the top 15.
Mhm.
So it's like I'm going at each of these conditions one at a time, looking at like what, how did you get here? Like, how can we identify what's going on that got you here? And then how can we begin to address it?
Mm.
So then how can we eliminate it and then restore, what's available when you're not struggling through life so that you can thrive through life. So the three words that I connected to the Play to Win podcast are play, create, and thrive.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so
So,
awesome. And I hear that when you're creating this podcast, your objective is to empower people to live in that fulfilled life and
mhm,
also to avoid that possibility of not living a fulfilled life, not living a meaningful life and
mhm,
suffering in like an identity that they
mhm.
feel trapped in, and
Yes.
there's no way out. There's no
Yes.
like hope for them because they just don't know any better, or their ego is running the show and they're unwilling to like let go or ask for help or seek those answers.
Absolutely. You said avoid, and I prefer the word prevent.
Okay.
So I feel like if someone, if like had I been able to notice what was
Mm.
happening in those 8 years, that would have completed sooner,
Mm.
and I would have prevented, myself from going to the depths of like depression and isolation,
Mm.
and the recovery process would have been a lot shorter as well. Um, so I feel like, being able to identify it as it approaches so that you can choose a different path.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm. And how do your interviews specifically empower people to do that? Or what are some of the conversations that you see yourself having and you're excited to have with these people?
So congruence,
Mm.
congruence. I think that not authority, authenticity is thrown around a lot.
Yep. Yep.
And so I'm like,
Yep. Yep.
so I experienced, like I had my first experience of hypocrisy when I was 9, and I
Hmm.
saw people around me that were being one way at church and another
Mm.
way in other social circumstances. I was like, and I was so confused and baffled, and I was like,
Mm.
huh? So it's like somehow that got like in me really deep, and something that like I was really repulsed by. And it's like it allowed me to grow in a way that I'm like, my radar for congruence is like,
or non-congruence, aka
is
BS.
yeah, is really high.
Yeah.
So the little tiny words behind, if you look at the art, the art of my podcast, it says really tiny, the congruent entrepreneur, play to win. So at the back of all of this is getting congruent. So what I'm looking for when I'm like finding my guests, it's like consistently being congruent in life, and how they were in one place where life wasn't working at some point, and then they came to that realization, whoa, something is not in alignment, and this is what's causing me not to have fulfillment. And then like what path they had to go down in order to like get aligned. And like I say, the three things is distinguish, define, and design their life. So distinguish for themselves what was out of alignment, define what they want their life to be, and then design that life, start living it.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. And do you ask those questions of, how did you distinguish, how do you define, or how did you design? Like, is that a process, like a IP kind of thing that you go through on your show? Because if you don't, I would.
I do, but not, I don't like make it that obvious.
Call it out, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I like, I get really irritated by the shows that are like a set number of questions and you're like, oh, this one's coming up next. I really want to be, in the collective consciousness and just be in flow and allow people, a lot of the people that I hear and see, you kind of, they're always forwarding the mission at hand, and you a lot of times don't get to hear the backstory, which I feel is what made what they're calling so powerful for them. And so I like to get them to share things that they don't get to share other places. And so far I've known the people I've had on my podcast pretty well. Going forward, I don't know how well I'll know the people that I interview before I interview them, but there has to be this, for someone to be on my show, there really has to be, like, I have to feel it. My head, my heart, my gut, like, it has to just be so consistently congruent with me. Right. I was just talking to I don't know who was it, my best friend yesterday? Or maybe not. I don't know. It was just like, I'm concerned about having someone on the show that, like, I believe that, like, perhaps I have someone on my show that I haven't known as long as others. And then it turns out that, something comes up and it's like, whoa, they were living a lie. And then, like, how is that going to reflect on me? And, because my commitment is to only, bring forth the truth. And, so that's like, I'm just being really transparent. Like, this is a huge fear. So my desire is that I really make sure that who I'm bringing on is like honest and true and vulnerable and really is living the core values that I have designed for the show.
Yeah, I love it. And I hear you, and I totally agree, because like our show, we only bring on people who are being and becoming the greatest possible self. That's why we do the pre-interview, to make sure that, at least on
just so the listeners know, it is long.
the intake form, yes, it's definitely lengthy. It's to weed out the tire kickers. But I think that's so powerful, is to have that filter, like you said, that radar of people, and like knowing how are they really showing up, and to be able to vet them over time. I know JJ Flizanes is so careful with who she puts in front of her audience. She's like, my tribe trusts me, and they take action on the things that I tell them to take action on, so I'm not going to tell them to go follow someone unless I believe in them. I'm not going to bring someone like that on my show. So, I 100% agree with that. And, one other thing that I wanted to share with you that I've noticed, and, take it or leave it, I've noticed that there's a lot of shows popping up, right? There's a lot of people starting podcasts. And one of the things that and I love it. I'm so grateful you do, because I want to teach people to start their own show. Here's the thing though, like, how do we make it unique? How do we make it memorable in people's minds? For me, I do so many interviews on this 12-hour marathon. I know I even need to amp up the structure of what people can expect and why it will be valuable. Like the one, resource that people want. That's like a really common one. Or, the like, there's different things that I could ask about that my audience wants to know. How do you find, maybe I have an audience of people who is like super single, and I want to know, how do you find your loved one? What's your top tip to find your loved one, for people who are in relationships or even out of them? So I want to ask those questions every single episode. So I think for you, and this is my sense, and if I'm wrong, totally call me on it. But I think that there's a little bit of a resistance to like conforming, a little resistance to structure, a little resistance to that kind of thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely off base.
I want you to share more so I can.
So my perspective is like, you don't want to be like the other people. The other podcasts that are out there, and oh my gosh, like they're going to do the same thing. And what I notice is when you have something that again and again people can count on, the consistency of asking that question, and some people are going to be like, I hate that this question keeps coming up. And the people who want to know the question just as much as you want to ask the question and want to get the answer, then those are the people who you want to tune into your podcast anyways. And that's
my cookie cutter question is, how do you gain congruence in your personal and professional life? Like, that is what I am like after in every single episode. But once again, I'm not going to like, there's not like a word for word question thing that I'm going to follow. And yes, I appall cookie cutter anything, cookie cutter coaching, cookie cutter business in a box, cookie cutter massage. Like, I like customized, because no two people are alike. And when you pretend that you know what the solution is for a person, or even if you lie to yourself that you even have the solution, like the solution doesn't exist. The solution is discovered. And when there's two people looking for a solution, it is a discovery that the two of you are on to find that solution. Together. And so if you like come at this, like, I know you've just cut off loads of possibilities, and maybe the solution that was like the critical solution that they needed to find. So that's my soapbox. and so like so recently I had an amazing call with my NLP coach, and we did this whole, it was me like just really absolutely, you are tuned in. I don't want to discount what you're saying, because that is there, but I think it's there for a good reason. Like it's serving me. So I was saying that, like, I want to be prepared for my interviews so that I really know that I'm delivering on the intention of what I'm committed for the listeners getting on any particular topic. So if I bring someone on, I'm addressing a particular topic, and I want to find a solution for that particular topic. And so I felt like the person I was going to interview, like, even though I knew this person so well that I didn't have with trying to launch my podcast, I was like, I didn't have enough time to do everything that I would normally do, not to have it perfect, but just to like really have certainty that I was going to fulfill on my commitment. And so we did some amazing process. I know that you know NLP too, but this process of aligning your head, your heart, and your gut. And it was like, this process is like, when it comes to this particular situation, what does your head know to be true about this situation? And then you share whatever that is. Is there anything else? Is there anything else, until there's nothing more? When it comes to the situation, what does your heart know to be true about the situation? And you share and share and share until there's nothing else. And then your gut, what does your gut know to be true about this situation? And there's it's like different answers come from all these different places. And then you combine it all. And so what this amazing thing came out of this was this, like, I'm so empowered by this identity, or whatever my superhero name now, or whatever, but so I'm known as the Vitality Vixen now. But like, who I am out of this particular exercise is a visionary catalyst. And I believe that
Wow.
that not wanting to be a cookie cutter, kind of being a rebel in the world, that is what a catalyst is. Like,
Yeah.
you don't change things by like accepting what is and being okay with what is. And I'm saying that like there's like, now we're getting into like, oh, you should embrace everything, accept everything. But when there's a goal that you're after,
Mhm.
it's like questioning everything. And I really believe, once again, this goes back to play.
Yeah.
Like, have that childlike, curious mind. Like, everyone says this is the way it has to be. Like, this is the way our politicians have to be. This is the way, work has to be. This is the way a marriage has to be. Like, really?
Mm.
Are you sure? Like, allow yourself to question everything and be curious and see if there's another answer or a new
Mm.
solution.
I love that. And I love that mindset, because that's who I am as I show up. I seriously am. I'm like, well, is this really the truth? And especially because we had the theme last week, a universe of duality, right? If someone's standing on one side, you can see it some way, and then from the other side, it's like a completely different way. So it's
Absolutely.
like to believe that our singular perspective is always right from what we can see is so egotistical.
Yeah. And I'm a Libra, and Libras are always like, well, let's weigh everything out. Well, I can see that. Well, I can see that. Well, gosh, both sides are valid. So I have that in spades.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So, Yvonne, what's the message you really want our audience to get before we're finished wrapping up here? Like, what is it that you really want our audience to receive because of their time invested here today with us?
So, I'm going to say congruence comes first, congruence comes first. And whatever that looks like for you is perfect. Like, whatever life that you're living, if you haven't yet had the opportunities to go through the personal and professional development to see what is running you, like, at the back of that, when you get out from underneath everything that's been instilled and installed into you, there is this perfect soul that has an amazing gift to give to the planet, and you absolutely have every right to speak your truth, be seen, be heard, be gotten, know that you belong, know that your calling matters, and to show up powerfully in the world, living your passion and your joy, and live a life of fulfillment.
Amazing. I love it. And what can people expect moving forward with the Play to Win podcast?
Fun.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, fun. Like, every single podcast, there's tons of resources. There's obviously people that are going to have like programs to like, invest in, but there's so many resources. We refer to things that you can go watch for free, or, a book that you can go buy, or a thing that you can download. But even inside every single episode, because we are in this state of exploration, there's gold in every few minutes. I'm like, oh, that was so good. Oh, that was so good. It's almost orgasmic.
Yes. Yes.
It's like so good. I've had so much fun. Yes. And I just, Pat Flynn, I read this one thing about like, when you as a host of a podcast, this is your time, like your one-on-one meeting with this amazing person, and like use that opportunity to like have this one-on-one conversation that everybody else just gets to be privy to. And I was like, ooh, that's good. That's amazing. I mean, I'm getting people on the show that are multiple thousands, multiple hundreds to multiple thousands of dollars an hour to have their time. And I'm getting that time with them. And then whoever listens to the podcast is getting that time with them. So I think that the value is immeasurable, to tune into my podcast, your podcast, like every single one of us that's committed to like living your best self. Like, you need to tune in, because we've invested a lot in ourselves.
Yes.
And you don't have to.
Yes. You can get the quantum leap by hearing it firsthand.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Yvonne, you're a superstar. How can people stay connected with the podcast? Where do they go? What do they do? Do we want them to subscribe, to rate, review, all that good stuff?
Yes. Okay, I'm so excited. All I've been doing on Facebook today is like, subscribe. Please. This is my birthday present to me. Please.
That's right.
So they can go to playtowinpodcast.com. Okay. This is day one. So, iTunes is most important today, but you can also list, I've got the Google, the Stitcher, and I'm going to have other, buttons and stuff like that to push later on. But if you go to playtowinpodcast.com, you will be able to click and immediately subscribe, listen, rate, review, share.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Love it. Playtowinpodcast.com. I just commented. I'm going to do it right after you jump off. I'm going to go rate, review, and subscribe. So everyone, definitely do that. Support Yvonne. Stay connected with the podcast. Subscribe. Keep listening to it because she is a superstar. And Yvonne, thank you so much. What's
thanks you too.
Its name? What is it?
Percy. This is named after my grandpa.
Percy.
Yeah.
Hey, Percy. I love it. Well, Yvonne, thank you. Tell Percy we said thank you too, and keep having the best day ever. Keep up the great work, and we look forward to seeing you soon, okay?
Thank you for having me, Chris. Appreciate
You're welcome, Yvonne. I'll see you soon.